I'd been waiting 6 months for my custom medical equipment to arrive. 6 long months of physical therapy, pain management, and endless paperwork with insurance companies. When the delivery company finally called to confirm they were coming today, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, I could start the road to recovery properly. I live in Oak Ridge Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood with well-maintained lawns and cookie-cutter homes. It's pleasant enough, if not for the homeowners association that rules with an iron fist. And at the helm of this suburban dictatorship, Karen Wilkins, a 50-something woman with a blonde bob perpetually styled to perfection and a permanent expression that suggested she just caught a whiff of something unpleasant. The delivery truck pulled up around noon. I was watching from my living room window, eager to help the driver with the large package. But before I could even open my front door, I spotted Karen marching across my lawn, clipboard in hand, her face set in that familiar scowl of disapproval. "Excuse me," she called out to the delivery driver, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" The driver, a young man probably in his 20s, looked confused. "Delivering a package to this address," he replied, gesturing toward my house. I stepped outside, moving as quickly as my current condition would allow. "Hi there, I'm the homeowner. That package is for me," I explained calmly, nodding to the driver while trying to ignore Karen's piercing stare. Karen positioned herself between me and the delivery man. "I'm Karen Wilkins, president of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA, she announced, emphasizing each letter as if they were royal titles. "And we have very strict rules about deliveries in this neighborhood." I sighed, already feeling my blood pressure rising. "Karen, this is medical equipment that I've been waiting for months. It's been approved by insurance and is necessary for my recovery." Her eyes narrowed as she looked me up and down, as if trying to visually diagnose what could possibly be wrong with me. "Well, you should have submitted a delivery request form to the HOA board at least 2 weeks in advance. It's in the bylaws, Section 23, Paragraph 4. She tapped her clipboard emphatically. The delivery driver shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, I just need a signature so I can complete this delivery and continue my route." Karen turned to him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'll take care of this package. You can leave it with me as the HOA representative. I'll make sure it gets properly processed according to our community guidelines." "Absolutely not," I interjected, stepping forward despite the pain it caused. "Karen, this is my medical equipment. It's expensive, custom-made, and I need it today." She raised an eyebrow. "Well, if it's so important, you should have followed proper protocols. This is exactly why we have rules." Her voice had that sickly sweet condescension that made me want to scream. The poor delivery driver was clearly out of his depth. "Look, I just need someone at this address to sign for it," he explained, holding out his electronic signature pad. Before I could reach for it, Karen snatched it from his hands. "As the neighborhood representative, I'm confiscating this package until proper documentation is filed with the board. We'll keep it at the community center until then." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Karen, that's theft. You have no right to take my property." She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "It's not theft, it's enforcement of community standards. You'll get your package once you've completed the proper paperwork and paid the rush delivery fine of $200. The driver looked between us, confused and increasingly uncomfortable. "I can't just give the package to someone else," he tried to explain. Karen's expression hardened. "Young man, do you want me to call your supervisor? I'm sure they'd be interested to hear how you're disrupting our peaceful community with unauthorized deliveries." That's when I pulled out my phone. "Karen, I'm calling the police if you don't step aside right now. This is my property, my address, and my delivery." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Go ahead. My husband plays golf with the police chief. They understand the importance of maintaining neighborhood standards." While maintaining eye contact with Karen, I dialed 911. "Yes, hello? I need to report a theft in progress. Someone is attempting to steal my medical equipment that's being delivered right now." Karen's face flushed red, but remarkably, she doubled down. While I was on the phone with emergency services, She somehow convinced the flustered delivery driver to place the package in her oversized SUV parked across the street. How she managed this, I'll never know. Perhaps it was the sheer force of her entitlement or the driver's desire to escape the situation. By the time I finished explaining the situation to the dispatcher, Karen was slamming her car door shut, my medical equipment secured in her trunk. "You'll get this back once you've learned to respect the rules," she called out her window as she started the engine. "I've just described your vehicle to the police," I shouted back. "They're on their way, and this is grand theft." Karen just smiled and waved dismissively as she drove away, leaving me standing in my driveway, phone in hand, utterly dumbfounded by what had just happened. 20 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up to my house. I explained the situation to the responding officers, showing them my order confirmation, the delivery tracking, and even pulling up the HOA bylaws on my phone to prove there was no such rule about delivery request forms. One of the officers, a Detective Rodriguez according to his badge, took detailed notes. "So she specifically identified this as medical equipment and took it anyway?" he asked, his expression growing increasingly serious. "Yes, she even acknowledged it was medical equipment but said I needed to file paperwork with the HOA first," I confirmed. Detective Rodriguez nodded grimly. "The value of this equipment puts this in grand theft territory. And since it's medical equipment, there could be additional charges." He made a call to dispatch, requesting officers to go to Karen's address immediately. While we waited, I explained the history of Karen's reign of terror over our neighborhood. The arbitrary fines, the constant surveillance, the way she used the HOA as her personal fiefdom. Detective Rodriguez listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "People like that," he said quietly, "they get drunk on the tiniest bit of power. But taking someone's medical equipment crosses the line from annoying to criminal." An hour later, my doorbell rang. Detective Rodriguez stood there with a smile, and behind him, 2 officers were unloading my medical equipment from a police cruiser. "We recovered your property," he said. Ms. Wilkins wasn't exactly cooperative, but she didn't have much choice once we explained the severity of the situation. I felt a rush of relief as they brought the package inside. "Thank you so much. Is she in trouble?" Detective Rodriguez's smile widened slightly. "Oh yes. She's been arrested and is currently being processed at the station. Grand theft of medical equipment is a serious charge. It's a felony that carries up to 3 years in state prison and fines up to $10,000. Her lawyer will probably negotiate it down, but she's facing real consequences." Just then, my phone buzzed with multiple notifications. It seemed news traveled fast in Oak Ridge Estates. The HOA board had called an emergency meeting and was already sending out emails about a leadership transition and unfortunate incident involving our former president. Detective Rodriguez chuckled as I showed him the messages. "Looks like her reign of terror is over. We'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement." As he was leaving, he turned back with a thoughtful expression. "You know, we get calls about HOA disputes all the time, but they're usually civil matters we can't do much about. Ms. Wilkins made a serious error when she decided to take matters into her own hands." I thanked him again as he left, then sat down beside my finally delivered medical equipment. My phone rang. It was my neighbor Ted, the HOA vice president. "Is it true?" he asked without preamble. "Karen was arrested for stealing your medical stuff?" "It's true," I confirmed. Ted let out a low whistle. "Well, the board just voted unanimously to remove her, effective immediately. She's been fined the maximum amount in our bylaws to $5,000. I was about to respond when I heard a commotion outside. Looking through my window, I saw Karen being dropped off at her house by what appeared to be her husband. She had clearly been released on bail, and she looked different. Her perfect bob was disheveled, her face blotchy from crying, and her designer outfit replaced with wrinkled clothes. Our eyes met through the window, and for a moment, everything went still. The look on her face when she realized her actions had real consequences, not just the criminal charges but the loss of her precious position of power, was one I'll never forget. Her mouth opened and closed silently, like a fish out of water, before she turned and hurried inside her house, away from the curious eyes of neighbors who were suddenly finding reasons to be outside in their front yards. The judge ultimately sentenced Karen to 18 months of probation, a $7,000 fine, and 200 hours of community service at a medical equipment distribution center for low-income patients. When the sentence was read, Karen's perfectly composed facade finally cracked completely. She let out a wail that echoed through the courtroom, collapsing into her seat as the reality of her situation fully hit her. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she cried out, mascara running down her face. The judge simply shook his head and moved on to the next case, leaving Karen to face the consequences of her actions with the same indifference she had shown to others for so long.